That was rather politically incorrect. Righteousness and sin, reward and punishment, good and evil, and not just good and evil in the abstract or as actions, a bad deed, but the actual identification of human beings as the offspring, the children of good and evil. Who speaks like that? Hardly will you find the terms good and evil with their real meanings in the public discourse. Maybe with new meanings such as like and dislike, or agree and disagree, but not right and wrong, true and false. I was reminded of this in a book I'm reading called The Closing of the American Mind. It's a book of reflections based on the observations of college students by Alan Bloom, who began teaching in the 1940s and wrote this work in the 80s. He said many years ago he got into the habit of asking students the question, who do you think is evil? The immediate response was Hitler, of course, right? And after him, he would ask. Up until a couple years ago, he wrote, a few students said Nixon, but he has been forgotten. And there it stops. They have no idea of evil. They doubt its existence. Although they live in a world in which the most terrible deeds are being performed and they see brutal crime in the streets, they turn aside. Perhaps they believe that evil deeds are performed by persons who, if they got the proper therapy, would not do them again. That there are evil deeds, not evil people. And he noticed something of this in the faculty, too. When President Reagan called the Soviet Union the evil empire, intellectuals joined in protesting such provocative rhetoric. Such language could lead to war. But when Reagan spoke at other times about the US and the Soviet Union having different values, these same people often approved. Evil is arrogant, a sign Reagan and the US thought they knew what's good. But values aren't so antagonistic. You have your values, I have mine. To each his own. Live and let live. It's an attempt to get beyond good and evil and the conflict such beliefs generate, so that we might get that easygoing, comfortable life that everybody obviously wants. You value what you want, and I'll value what I want, and peace will be the lasting fruit. Shame and guilt and sexual repression, those things, well, they'll be things of the past, as well as the pressure to pursue the good. God is dead, wrote a German philosopher, by which I think he meant good and evil are dead. Now we're free to create our lives according to what we value. But this means that our life is only as large as our imaginations. With good and evil and a final test or judgment put to death, rejected, our lives are no longer a quest to find the truth about being a human being. They're no longer about bending our thoughts and actions accordingly so that we don't live our lives in vain. And no longer are our lives threatened by an evil enemy, except for the church, which tries to tell us what we should and should not do. Rather, our lives become about self-actualization, about being happy with yourself, being who you are, living the lifestyle you value. Not only does this make for a bland and egoistic life, which is why you have a much harder time getting your kids to contribute to the family's home life than your grandparents did theirs, and it's why so many kids are often bored with blandness. If this is all there is to life, then I'll opt for video games or social media. Thank you very much. Not only does focusing on yourself, being who you are, make for a bland and egoistic life, but as any confessor can tell you, it leads to a life of dissatisfaction tending towards despair, especially in our young people. For our whole house of cards is built on ourself, which at times we just don't like very much. But we're not given any alternatives but entertainment and substance abuse to divert our attention and produce a feeling that our values have failed to generate in us. It's a German school of thought leading to differing levels of destruction, but popularized in our culture, beginning at least at the time Louis Armstrong sang Mac the Knife in the 1950s. Some of you remember that, right? Mac the Knife. What could be wrong with that? Michael Bublé more recently revisited it. It goes like this. Oh, the shark has pretty teeth, dear, and he shows them pearly white. Just a jackknife has Macheath, dear, Mac, and he keeps it out of sight. When the shark bites with his teeth, dear, scarlet billows start to spread. Fancy gloves, though wears Macheath, dear, so there's not a trace of red. On the sidewalk Sunday morning, baby, lies a body oozing life. Someone sneaking around the corner. Is the someone Mac the Knife? From a tugboat by the river, a cement bag's drooping down. Yeah, the cement's just for the weight, dear. Bet you Mac, he's back in town. At the self-actualization of Mac on live recordings, the crowd cheers, indifferent to good and evil. He's being who he is, Mac the Knife, and breaking free from societal expectations and old school morality. Now, few know that this hit song is a translation of Mackie Messer, a song from an opera highly praised in the German Reich shortly before Hitler was appointed chancellor. The song sounds benign until you scratch the surface. The new value language does too, until its fruits are observed. Friends, with the generic word weeds, we have a translation of the original Greek word zizania, which is a specific type of weed that is indistinguishable from wheat until it produces black berries of no worth at harvest time. Keep alive these sayings of Jesus, which remind you that there are such things as evil weeds, and enable you to discern them as such. Discuss the truths contained in Christ's words, for they do not limit life, but make life worth living, giving it purpose and vigor and excellence.